So, what essential info do you need for an account? I know that there's 5 triggers. When I was at Chili Piper, we did our 5 triggers, and I always looked for 5 key things. For me, it was mergers and acquisitions, new product launches, any type of hiring that they got going on, promotions that may be happening within the company, and also growth. Now, I know this is very important because you can bring it up in conversation. Is there anything else that a buyer should look out for or seller should look out for, Jason?
Yeah, I talk about 3 buckets. I don't know if is that what you want me to kind of get into?
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about the three
Yeah.
buckets.
So, if we kind of backtrack a little bit, I think what we're looking for when we reach out to an account, and especially an individual at that account, we're looking for something that's going to connect to something that they care about. So, a principle that we want to leverage is called the principle of commitment and behavioral consistency.
Hmm.
Really simply, like if I had to give a really kind of easy example, it's the thing that motivates a person to work out or eat healthy, right? My behavior is motivated by the things I'm committed to, and my values drive those commitments. So if I value my health and being healthy or living long or whatever it might be, that's going to drive my commitments and my behavior. So what I'm looking for in an account or in an individual, especially when I'm trying to prioritize some of those accounts, I'm just looking for what these people value.
Hmm.
There's 3 kind of buckets, and we have a pretty cool slide that we're going to show you here in a sec too. It's kind of a cheat sheet for this. I'm going to look for 3 things. One is accomplishments. So what does this company outwardly brag about? So an example of that might be if I'm reaching out to HR people or hiring people, I'm looking for indicators that they care about their employees. So are they winning awards? Do they talk about how awesome the workplace is, et cetera? The second bucket I'm looking for is investments. So what is this company spending money on? So that might be people that they're hiring, might be products that they're using, new product or service lines, perhaps, whatever that might be, and then education. So this would apply more to someone selling to B2B,
Okay.
companies that are B2B versus B2C. So what kind of content are they creating? So what do they educate their customers on through webinars, podcasts, like literally exactly what we're doing here, right? This is you guys educating your audience.
Definitely.
So those are the 3 buckets: accomplishments. What do they brag about? What are they investing in? And then the other one is where are they creating content about and educating their prospects on?
Okay. And I know you had a fantastic example for us that you brought up recently in your LinkedIn post. Can you mind like just speaking on this a little bit more?
Yeah, so again, because I like simple analogies, the analogy that I would use with this is kind of like your shopping list. You don't really want to go, if you're wanting to be efficient at least, most of us don't go to the grocery store and just like comb through every single aisle. Normally, what you would do is have a list of things for the meals that you want to cook or the stuff that you like to eat. And this is a cheat sheet that you can use for that. What I would recommend is looking at what are the 4, you mentioned 5 triggers. I think that's a really good number to start with. What are the 4 or 5 things that are really common here? And what we have is like where to look for them and then what to look for. So if you have this going into it, I can take my 100 accounts, maybe that have been assigned, or some of you, maybe it's hundreds, or maybe it's 20, whatever it might be. I can prioritize the people that I'm going to reach out to at these companies by looking at who's got the lowest hanging fruit and these triggers, who's got something active that I could talk about so that I can create a reason to have a conversation with us. And this is just the cheat sheet that you can use. I think it's pretty exhaustive. There might be a few in there missing, but this is just based on the work that I do with companies that sell everything from automated welding solutions to customer experience platforms and sort of everywhere everything in between.
Amazing, amazing. Now, I think this cheat sheet would be perfect with understanding more about your buyer, right? Actually, what key points did you have to make with understanding who you're talking to?
Yeah, I mean, so very similar to Jason, there's a lot of things that we can take a look at the company level, right? Like at the account level and understanding like their business, what's going on, what they're spending money on, etc. The next kind of layer down is to understand the person, like who you're speaking to, what's going on in their world, what they care about, what their values are. And there's a myriad of ways to uncover those things. LinkedIn is a wonderful resource, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, etc. One of, and other social channels, because now people are on TikTok, so follow them. But one of the things that I've been doing recently it seems super simple, but is checking out like their LinkedIn recommendations that they've been given. And
Yeah.
there's like a lot that you can uncover there about who they are as a human being, who they are as a coworker, as a colleague, as a leader. I just had a great call yesterday with someone who I checked out their LinkedIn recommendations. Everyone just had all of these amazing things to say about this person as a leader. They're a VP of marketing. And I went into that call knowing that he was like, kind of knowing the vibe I was going to be, going up against and it was spot on. I mean, like, yeah, I mean, it was like almost like a one-on-one opposed to a demo. It was great. The other like more simplistic thing that I get from those is, let's say you have a prospect named Daniel, but you check out the recommendations, everyone's calling them Dan, right? Then you can get on the call. You already know, like, it seems silly and small, but it makes a big difference. I had something similar where I got on a call with someone who I didn't know how to pronounce their name, but I had talked to somebody else in their organization who filled me in that like most people mispronounce the name this way. This is how you should say it. It'll go a long way. Like something super simple, and we all know it. Like people buy from people. We don't buy from companies, and so the sooner you can make that human connection, the better. So yeah, that's just sort of my take on kind of understanding who you're talking to and finding out ways to do that.
Now, when it comes to prospecting, Jason, what about personas? Are they important, and why should we follow them?
Yeah, I think there's a where you're kind of going with this because we've talked about tiering.
Mhm.
There's lots of ways to tier. I'm curious actually how you guys do it at Chili Piper too, Ashley. But there's tiering like I can do by, company. And by company, there's like industry segments, like employee count, like I can segment by triggers. A persona, I think, is another really underrated one because we can do this in a couple different ways. I think one of the most underrated things by persona to do is, tiering by contact information that's available to you. So Zoom
Mm-hmm.
Info, I love it. As great as it is, there's no tool, including Zoom Info, that has 100% of contact data at every company that we're reaching out to. And I think taking that in consideration, if I have 100 accounts or 50 or whatever, the people that I really want to get a hold of, let's say it's a VP of customer support, for a client that I work with, I'm not going to reach out to companies that I don't have good contact information for the job titles that I really want to get a hold of. I'm going to save those for later. That's going to become a B or C tier.
Mm-hmm.
So think about your personas and the path, the play that your company will typically run that's the best to get the first meeting with. So if you're an SDR, or BDR and you're watching this is something that you could talk to your account executive about. And instead of having them reverse engineer the deal, have them reverse engineer how the opportunity was created. So who did they get the first meeting with, even if it came inbound?
Mm-hmm.
That's another pattern that you can look at. So I think a lot of times the person that we want to talk to is not necessarily the person that's the best to get the first conversation with. So
Wow.
I want the first conversation with a person that's most likely to champion what I'm selling. The more senior, the better, of course, but that isn't always realistic. I think we want to meet with the C suite, but how many of us have actually done a meeting with someone in the C suite at a company that's like 1,000+ employees? I mean, it's very hard to get meetings with those people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with meeting with a VP or a head of something or a director of something. So just think about what those personas are as you're tiering and the ones that you really, really want to get meetings with. And I want to like over index. I want to spend 80% of my effort on A tier. And B and C tier, I can, use more automation. I can do it more scale. I can do less personalization. I can have this air coverage, kind of campaign going. But 80% I want to spend on A tier. And by persona is a way that you could do that. I gave you a bunch of ideas, but yeah. So I think that planning part, this is kind of sharpening of the axe before I cut the tree down, kind of part of the equation.
Now, I want to get a little bit tactical here. What is a good way to set up alerts and where should you go? Like, what alerts should I be setting up so I can get these, pieces of information for my outreach very quickly? Jason, do you have any good places that people should go to?
I mean, LinkedIn Sales Navigator is kind of the easiest one. So depending on how your company has it set up, hopefully they have it, the integration with Salesforce set up so that you can just take an account list and just like click a button versus having to enter them all manually. Some of us are in an unfortunate position where we do have to do it manually. Sales Nav, I think, is one of the best places to look. And then, so you can set up these alerts, but I think also just using the spotlights filter is a
Mhm.
really good way to kind of segment those accounts too. So, what companies have newly hired executives within the first 90 days? I think about the last like 3 or 4 big training deals that I closed, and it was a new VP of sales at that company within 3 to 6 months. You know, so it's people that are new in executive positions, especially where they have buying power. They spend quite a bit of money in their first 6 to 12 months. It happens fast. So I think like spotlighting, looking for, segmenting for people that post content regularly on LinkedIn. I mean, just those right there, people that follow your company on
Mhm.
LinkedIn already. This other one's a little trickier, but looking for past employees of current customers, that's a really good play to run too. So I think the alerts are good. Once you have your account list, you can kind of follow these companies and set up your alerts in SalesNav. But I think even proactively looking, you know, if I missed some of the alerts that happened in the last couple of months, how do I find those? The spotlights filter is going to be the easiest way to do that. And I don't know why, but people tend to really overlook this. It's like there's like gold sitting in your account list, and Sales Navigator will help you find the gold, or at least find the right river to
Yeah,
dig in and sift through. You know what I mean? So
that's awesome.
use it. Sales Nav is awesome.
Yeah.
It completely is. And actually, are there any other alerts that you set yourself so that you can be just ready for when they hit?
Yeah, I set up Google Alerts for my top tier accounts that I'm like keeping an eye on, especially if like for me as an AE, like if I'm in an active deal cycle, I want to know like did something cool happen? Did something bad happen? Do we need, like I want to know what's going on. So I'll set up Google Alerts. The other thing I'll mention that is super helpful for me, and it was when I was an SDR too, is setting up Salesforce reports, which if you don't know how to do, ask somebody to help you figure it out or teach yourself like I did. But especially so like close loss because of timing or budget or anything that is a like could be changed after 3 months or 6 months, right? Like the those are more gold that you can find, right? So going after those close loss opportunities, especially ones that are timing, and just hitting them up with an email being like, hey, last time we spoke, our timing, didn't match up, would now be a better time to explore, insert how you can help them. And it's fire. Like I get a lot of meetings that way. So and it's obviously that's helpful when you've been around for a little bit and you've got that historical information or data. Trying to think of some other ones. I think I love the past customer, like a prospect who used us at a previous company and is now at a new company. That's the easy conversation to start. Be like, you saw the value when you were over at X company. Do you want to bring that to your team here at Y company?
It's an easy layup right there.
Easy. And they
Really.
might tell you no because of whatever reason, but that's okay. Like they know who they're talking to, right? Then you're not starting from scratch. You're not, it's not a knocking on the door to somebody you've never met before. They know who you are.
Mhm.